All right, I want to start off by saying ETM Hotep, welcome everybody to our hangout. You're hanging out with the Seshew Medew Netcher. And today we're having a hangout that we call Welcome to the Sebaytdome. All right, and tonight's discussion will be concerning the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system that we know as Sesh Medew Netcher. And where are all the opinions coming from? All right, but before we get into the discussion, we always like to start off with the offering formula. So I will pass the microphone to our Sanet Emikeraku.
Dua. So I will go ahead and recite the offering formula. And before I do that, I'll just like to explain what it is that you're looking at on your screen for those who are seeing this for the first time. What we have on the top is the offering formula. Is written in what is known as Sesh Medew Netcher, or other people know it as hieroglyphics or hieroglyphic. And which in the middle part, that is the transliteration. And at the bottom you have the English translation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the transliteration, and the pronunciation that I'm going to be using is what is known as Egyptology speak. Is, just a disclaimer, is not an accurate rendition of the proper pronunciation, but it's what is known as Egyptology speak. And the offering formula is done in the name of the ancestors, and this is what you see here, which is Aku. And if you're reciting along with me, you're welcome. You're free to read it as well, but you can insert the name of anybody that you know that has passed along. So I'll go ahead and just recite along with me. Hotep Dinesu, Wesir Neb Jadu, Netra A Neb Abju, DF Beret Kheru, T Henket Ka Aped Shes Menchet, Chet Nebet Neferet Wabed Anket Necheim, In Kani Imachu Aku Machiru. And the translation is: an offering the king gives Osiris, Lord of Jadu, great God, Lord of Abydos, so that he may give verbal offerings in beer, bread, ox, fowl, alabaster, and linen, everything good and pure on which a god lives, for the car of the revered ones, the ancestors justified.
All right, excellent, Iker, excellent. And we always like to start off our hangouts and our gatherings with the offering formula to set the tone. You know, that is analogous or equivalent to when we gather in person, face to face. When you see people will perform a libation ritual. This is our way of doing something in regards to the ancestors of those who have made their transitions. All right, so it's excellent. But I do have a quick question about that, though, because it kind of goes into our discussion for tonight. So, you know, when you said that it's not an accurate pronunciation, what are these pronunciations from then?
Could you elaborate when you say what are these pronunciations?
The pronunciations that you were reciting, the way that you recited, you said it's not an accurate pronunciation, because see, what happens is people will listen and hear you say that, and then you know the charge that people will come up with. Well, how do you know how things are pronounced? You're not pronouncing them right, and this, that, and the other. So are you confirming what they're saying when you say they're not accurate pronunciations, or where do we get the pronunciations from?
Okay. It's not to confirm what people are saying. These let me just share my screen once again, just so can be able to point it out. So these are the this is the transliteration. And the system that is used. Sorry.
I was saying 1 second. Let me lock it on your screen. All right.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Dua. So this is a transliteration, and the transliteration we usually use two systems. This is with the diacritical marks, or the manual decodage, where you'd have like this part with the H and the dot underneath. You'd have a capital H, TP, and then this would be the same. So the manual decodage is just to make it easier for when typing, because that does not these signs with the letters with the signs underneath them, or the top, like the S with that little thing on the top, we do not have that on the keyboard. So what it is we're using instead of using this, which is the dark critical marks, we would use the manual decodage, where this would be a capital H, something like this would be a capital S. So the manual decodage is case sensitive. But so this is hotep or hetep, or in that sense. So the pronunciation comes from that, where Egyptologists would actually put the letters E, or the vowels in between the consonants, just to help pronounce these words that, while learning them, in essence. So this would be hotep or hetep, or just adding the vowels in between. So this is where the Egyptology speak comes from. I think that's what you were asking. I had to go the long way to answer it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I asked that question because it kind of goes into one of the things that we'll discuss tonight. So we might as well start off with that. And just as a reminder, the title of our hangout tonight is "Welcome to the Sebaytdome." And the Sebaytdome, the word Sebayt means instructions. It's the word for instructions. All right. Seba means to teach. It also means teacher, to teach, to instruct, and also student. So it has everything to do with learning and being instructed, or instructing. So welcome to the Sebaytdome is a spinoff of the Terror Dome, of the Public Enemy song "Welcome to the Terror Dome," or even way before that, in terms of the movie, the Mad Max and the Thunderdome. The old Mad Max movie. All right. So, but tonight's topic is a discussion about Sesh Medew Netcher, which is the indigenous phrase for hieroglyphic writing system. And so the question is, where are all of these opinions coming from? Because of the
sorry to interrupt, because I just wanted to add one more thing, was the fact that when we speak of the Egyptology when we're dealing with the pronunciation of what is written of the Sesh Medew Netcher, no one has ever actually claimed that that the Egyptology or what is being pronounced at this stage is accurate. But I think you'd be the best one to get into the reconstruction of the spoken language itself. So, but just to emphasize that it has never been claimed that the pronunciation you hear people speaking is actually, it has never been claimed that it's an accurate pronunciation.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. All right. Yeah. All right. So good. We can get into it. I was just going back over the topic, so people who are tuning in right now will be aware of our discussion for tonight. So again, our discussion is about the Sesh Medew Netcher, all right, which is the hieroglyphic writing system. And the question is asked, where are the opinions coming from? And so for the past year or so, a lot of people have had a lot to say about the ancient Egyptian language and writing system. Even so much so, people are confusing the two. They don't see a distinction between the writing system or scripts versus the speech or the language. And they're crossing over to when they have these discussions. So so that's what our discussion is for tonight. and I still have it locked on your screen, because something I want to point out about that, because there's been claims or discussions about the pronunciation, and we'll see people will say, will ask the question, how do you know how these words are pronounced? Or they'll just go out and make the claim that we're not pronouncing these words correctly. So as you just said, that no one claims that the pronunciations of today are historically accurate. And we have to stress historically accurate. And that by that, it means that the way they were pronouncing the words today are not claimed to be a mirror representation of how the words were pronounced 3,000 to 5,000 years ago. So, but one of the key things, so that's never claimed. So people who make that claim that we don't know how it sounds or things like that, that seems to be an assumption that we're saying that we're pronouncing it correctly, and that's just not the case. Every single book that you can open up that actually, every book that speaks about the language, that you know, whether it's Egyptian grammars or introductory books, they will always have in their introduction, or at least in the first chapters, some statement to the effect of the fact that the pronunciations are not meant to be taken as historically accurate. All right. So, and along with that, and the reason why is, which why I brought this question up first, is because when we're looking at the Sesh Medew Netcher or the hieroglyphs, we are looking at consonants. There are no documentation of vowels, and you can't pronounce words without vowels. So, so this entire issue is centered around the placements or the selection of vowels. And so what Egyptologists have done in order to allow them to discuss the language, in order for us to discuss the language and have a conversation about it, to be able to pronounce it, what Egyptologists have done is that they placed an E in between all of the consonants. So this is why we'll say things like the word seneb, which means health. We'll say things like jed, which means say, neb, which is Lord, master, owner, possessor, or it can mean the word all. We'll say things like peret, cheru, nefer, or neferet, you know, or netcher. All of these words, if you notice, they will have an arbitrary E stuck in between the consonants. So that's what's meant by classroom pronunciations or Egyptology speak. And a point to be made is that the pronunciation of a word is separate from the meaning, because I can mispronounce a word all day but know what the word means, and then I have an understanding and a comprehension of what I'm either trying to tell someone else or what another person is trying to tell me in writing. So I can read something, not know how to pronounce it, but I can understand the meanings behind what I'm reading. That's basic reading comprehension. So we have to understand these differences and these things so that we can eliminate the erroneous claims and you know, and not really let them grow into arguments that we've seen lately, you know, in terms of Sesh Medew Netcher or the language. So yeah, that's one reason why I brought that up. But I was just reminded that we kind of jumping right into it because of the offering form was just read. But let's introduce ourselves and let everyone know who is on the panel. And I'll start with myself. My name is Wujau, or my full Kemetic name is Wujau Meneb Erimaat. But everyone can shorten it and just call me Wujau, which is perfectly fine. So I want to say Hotep, ETM Hotep to everyone watching now, and all those who will be watching in the archives. And appreciate people taking the time out to listen to what we have to say. And hopefully you walk away learning something, because we're going to address a few issues today about the opinions that are floating around, that have been floating around for the past year, and that have kind of gained momentum in more recent months leading up to this event on December 18th. So I'll pass the mic, and everyone else can introduce themselves.
ETM Hotel, that's welcome and peace. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope you enjoy the show and leave satisfied. Hotel.
ETM Hotep. But welcome to everybody. Sandy Jehudi. Thanks for watching. Welcome.
Hotep, this is Amy Ket, Aku, Kenshai, and I'd like to welcome you all to Sebaytdome. So hope you enjoy the show.
ETM Hotel family, this is Sin and Sean. Just like to welcome everybody out to the show. Hope you tune in and learn something today, which we all are.
ETM Hotel, Duau, Day in Uncle Giles Zaneb, Hekanu in Amin Ra Pata Kwa E Sekum, Ren E Kofi Paisa, and we're glad that you all have joined the show tonight. And on behalf of the Seshew, we all just would like to welcome you all, family.
All right. And I'm not sure, maybe Brother Antoine is having issue with his mic, but we also have son Antoine. Hush Your Mouth is also with us on the panel. But okay, so we could just jump into our topic, again. So the question is, where are the opinions coming from? So what are some of the opinions that you are hearing? So, so basically tonight, we're just going to have a discussion about several things that are coming up, that have been popping up on social media and on YouTube and the different videos that are circulating. So, we can mention some of the opinions that we've been hearing and have a discussion about it and address them. And just kind of go in on it. So what are some of the things that you all are hearing, and bring it up. And if you're watching and you're in the chat, I keep my eye on the chat. If you've been hearing, the different opinions about the language now, mind you, we're talking about opinions about the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system that we know as Sesh Medew Netcher. All right. So any opinions that, you who are in the chat, you want to bring up, just go ahead and type it, and we'll keep our eyes out for anything to address. All right. But so for everybody on the panel, though, I'm sure you all have been keeping your eyes on social media, Facebook, YouTube, things like that, because, a lot of us, we don't watch TV, but we'll occasionally watch some of the YouTube videos, because there's a lot of good information out there on the internet, period, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. So we have to be mindful of all of that. So, but we can start. So what are some of the opinions that are circulating that you all are familiar with?
Well, there was the rest of the panel things. I just wanted to iterate on what you were saying before about the pronunciations, since I heard the offering formula with me. You're talking about the pronunciation, and you mentioned that you don't have to pronounce something right to know the meaning of it. So the meaning is separate from the pronunciation. And I just wanted to, since demonstration beats conversation, I just wanted to show it real quick, just by example, from the offering formula. And I don't know if you see my screen one more time.
T.
Okay, cool. So if so for example, this word, if you've heard us sometimes butcher the pronunciations, but that has never affected the meaning. If you see this word and you know that this word means offering, whether you pronounce it as hotep, somebody says ketep, or somebody says hatep, or somebody else says hep, or whatever, that would never, or if you just read it without even pronouncing it, that will not take away the meaning of it once you know that the meaning is offering. So this is just one of the things that, you know, we have to emphasize again, that the pronunciation has nothing to do with the meaning of the word. So even if we do not pronounce it right, if the accent is wrong, or you misspell or you mispronounce something, the meaning still remains the same. And I just wanted to show that with what we got at the moment. So, you know, that word and this word will be of the same meaning, but whether, no matter how you say it, you know, will still, the meaning will never get lost. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out real quick while I still had this on my screen.
Okay, Dua, that's a good example. And also we do it all the time with names. I mean, how many people's names have we butchered, you know, throughout our lifetime? You know, when we're introduced to friends or friends of friends, you know, people coming over to family events and bringing a friend, and they have a name that's you're not used to pronouncing, or, you know, someone from another country. We butcher people's names. Especially if you're reading. I mean, the teacher, look at anybody out there who's a teacher, and you start in the school year and you're doing roll call and you're reading names, you know, names are butchered until the student themselves, you know, correct you a few times, and then you get used to it, and then, you know, you're good to go. But it doesn't stop you from identifying who you're talking about. So we have to be mindful of that. And a lot of people that are making these claims, they're really they have no merit when it comes to these opposing claims about the language and about the writing system. So we just have to keep that in mind. All right. So yeah, that's one of the things that's being said. You know, I've seen it quite a few times where people will say, they will equate the pronunciation and say and actually saying that because we don't have the historical accurate pronunciation, therefore we don't know what the words mean. And so I want to stress that that is completely incorrect. All right, that is just completely false. So hopefully by us, you know, discussing it and people gaining information and knowing the difference, that this can spread out and we can combat the ignorance that's floating around out there and the misinformation. All right. So, but what are some of the other opinions that are floating around now? You know, I do want to say, you know, December 18th, there's an event. It is being called a debate between, the debate question is, has the Medew Netcher been deciphered? And so there is a side that's saying that it's not, and then there's a side that's saying that it has been deciphered. So, you know, it's being styled as a debate, but it's not really a debate, because both sides are not on equal footing in terms of the subject matter, or in terms of the language, the ancient Egyptian language, or its writing systems. You know, so it's really, December 18th is really an opportunity for people to be exposed to some good information. And when you're in that kind of environment, obviously it's not like a study course. So the information that will be given on the 18th is going to be in a summary type of form and concise. So it's not meant to be any exhaustive explanation about the language, or it's not a language course and things like that. So you're not going to walk away all of a sudden being able to go into Egypt and translate the entire temples, you know, all of the temples over there and things like that. But it would be some good information that people get a chance to be exposed to, which is a good thing. And also kind of puts in perspective the different claims that have been floating around, whether they are valid or not, whether they have merit or not, or you know, or just people just reaching, you know, like why are these different claims being made? So that kind of parallels to our topic in our discussion, you know, and the question is, where are these opinions coming from? So you know, the idea behind the question is because, like me, I've seen a lot of people give their opinions about the language, but every single time I engage someone that offers their opinion about the language, I always ask them, you know, what books are you studying, or who are you studying from in terms of a person? What books have you read or studied, and how long have you been studying the language, and to what extent? And I will say this: 100% of the time, without exception, all of the opinions that I'm seeing that are floating around of late, in terms of the language, the writing system has not been deciphered. Anything that's really opposing the understanding of the language are coming from people who have not studied the language. They have not read the books. They have not done any literature review. No investigation, no thorough investigation, no application of rigor or research methodology. They're not being taught by a particular person who has these qualifications as well, or either. So I find that 100% of the time that all of these opinions are coming from people from an uninformed position. So that's why I asked the question. So where are these opinions coming from? What's causing people to just freely give their opinion about something that they have not themselves taken time out to study, taken time out to investigate, and I don't think it's fair for those people who are sincere seekers of the truth, accurate information, and want to learn, to be clouded by a lot of, opinions from people who have not taken the time out, who not been responsible enough to take the time out to study, but yet they have a lot to say about the subject matter. So, so that's how I see this question. That's how the question is framed, So Kofi, you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna see. I don't see how anybody would take these individuals because they could all coming out of the woodwork. I mean, I think everybody need to stay in their own lane. These people that that's in the so-called conscious community, you got individuals that specialize in science, evolution, history, religion, all these people that has a lane that's carved out that you have been seeing over the past few years that's dealing with this so-called conscious community. They are now speaking about something that they really don't know anything about. They have come out of their lane and come into another lane that they have no clue about, and they speaking about things that they have no clue about, and they confusing a lot of people with a lot of their opinions. A lot of their opinions, that they are broadcasting over the internet or the YouTube wave or the Facebook wave. I just don't see how anybody would take these individuals seriously, especially if I've been looking at a couple of guys for a couple of years and I never heard them speak about linguistics. I never heard them speak about writing scripts. I never heard them speak about translation, transliteration. I never heard them speak about the meta netter, but all of a sudden, an event that's, that come out, you got all these different people now that are experts in this other field. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, exactly. And, so that's what I'm saying. I share the same sentiments because you have people who are influential in the quote unquote conscious community. People see a community and they refer to it as a conscious community. So you have people that are influential, people that stick out, people that are pretty known. They have face value. If you see their face, you'll know their name, and you hear and see them a lot and things. So whatever they say is just influential just off of that alone, just off of their popularity and I guess longevity in being in front of the camera, and doing and interacting with the people. So, like for example, we have a lot of people know that this December 18th event that's coming up is involving Sesh Medew, and it's involving Young Pharaoh, and it's involving the Amara Squad. So we have two individuals, Sesh Medew and Young Pharaoh, by their own admission, have not studied the language, at any length of time or any thorough investigation of it. Now, Sesh Medew said that he's been looking at it for 30 years. But at the same time that he says that, he confuses decipherment from pronunciation, from translations, and things like that. And a lot of people do that. As a matter of fact, as of today, I was in a conversation with someone on this very subject, and they themselves used the word translation. They said, I'm not saying that it has or has not been translated. So he had to be stopped in his tracks and explained what decipherment is first. And the difference between decipherment, decryption, transliteration, translation, transcription, pronunciation, all these different things have precise meaning, and represent different acts or different things that are performed on languages or their writing systems, or they're words that explain the relationship between the two. So, anybody who's been looking at it at a language for 30 years and can't discern the difference between those key terms, you have to kind of question, you have to kind of question their competency in this subject matter. So, I asked the question straight out to the brother Sesh Medew and Young Pharaoh, to give a definition of decipherment, because if the event on December 18th is about whether or not the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system been deciphered or not, then the first thing everybody should be on board with or on the same page with is the operating definition of what decipherment is. And I asked this question, and it wasn't answered. So, which is strange. But so that's what we have. We have a lot of that going on. People are confusing it. And I think the main reason why is because, see, communication itself is something that all human beings do. All communities of human beings communicate. And there's different forms of communication. You got non-linguistic communication, which is body gestures. When you raise your eyebrows, you laugh, you smile. All these different things are non-linguistic forms of communication. Animals do non-linguistic forms of communication. Then you have linguistic forms of communication. You have speech, and then you have writing. So because that is so normal and so like automatic default, you're born, from baby communicating, some form of fashion, that we tend to take the communication itself for granted. And then when we get into more specifics about communication, what a writing system is, what is a language, what is considered a writing system, things like that. We kind of take it for granted, and then we feel like we can speak on these things. But we have to realize that linguistics, which is the study of language, and it's a broad term because you got different subfields of linguistics, but it in of itself is a hard science. Just as when I say hard science, I mean a bona fide science, just like biogenetics, just like chemistry, just like astrophysics, just like quantum physics, whatever, all these different sciences that you don't see people that will just jump out the window and just start talking about. They know their limitations about a subject. Like you don't find people on Facebook talking about just tossing around any opinions about chemistry, because we understand that, okay, chemistry is a scientific discipline that I need to take some time out and learn first before I open my mouth and start giving opinions about it. Same thing with astrophysics. You don't see people on Facebook just running off at the mouth talking about elements and issues of astrophysics, because we already look at it as, okay, that is a subject that I need to take a course in or learn from, or do some research investigation throughout some time. before I open my mouth. But for some reason, when it comes to language and it comes to specific languages, the speech and the writing system of specific languages, all of a sudden people have a lot to say. And I think it's because we take it for granted. You know, we take a lot about languages for granted, you know. So you have these people who will make these opinions and things. So that's what I'm saying. December 18th event will kind of put all that in context, that no, you know, this stuff is a serious science and people need to slow down and learn the linguistic jargon, the nomenclature, what these words mean, how they applied, you know, so that we can accurately describe different phenomena, you know, just like any other science. You know what I'm saying? So we have to keep that in mind. So that'll be a good thing for people to look out for and hopefully learn from. You know what I mean? But we do have a lot of people. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that it is a good thing that you emphasizing on the word communication, because I mean, the whole debate or the whole teaching moment that is going to be happening on the 18th is based on language and a script, and you know, these are forms of communication. And I think the most ridiculous, really ridiculous thing about the whole thing is that the people you have people like Seti and Young Pharaoh, you know, who on the other end talking about the language hasn't been translated, you know, or transliterated, or sometimes throwing decipherment in there. And so you realize that these people are talking about language and a script, but which involves the right use of terminology, and that they haven't even grasped that part yet. And you know that, you know, if you're using you know, terminology, if you're using it to portray you know, a message, you know, it could actually act like a barrier if you're using the wrong terminology. It will not get understood by whoever is receiving the message. And I find that, you know, it's just really ridiculous that just that basic part, the people who put themselves in the center of these tools of communication, don't even know or just the basics of those communication, the terminology and all of that. I think that's just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the comments so far, because, you know, earlier I asked anyone to participate, you know, to chime in and type out any of the opinions that they may have themselves, or that you know, have been seeing or reading or hearing on social media. So we have Lisa Hotep, and then she says, I hear that it hasn't been deciphered, or that half of what has been deciphered is wrong or inaccurate. All right. Now, see, now I've heard that too. You know, I've heard that. I've heard people say 50%. Matter of fact, I put up a Facebook poll, and I asked the question, you know, where do you stand on the question of whether the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system been deciphered or not? You know, and then I gave the option, yes, it has been. No, it hasn't been. What was the other option? Another option was I don't know. And then the fourth option was partially been deciphered, or something to that effect. And so, you know, just to kind of get an idea of the numbers of people that were, you know, and their responses. But everyone that answers and says that only some of it's been deciphered, or only half, they never provide any information. They never provide which half has been and which half hasn't been. Because when you say half, that's 50%. 50% of what? Like, see, and this is one of the problems when having these discussions about the language. Everybody gets very, very vague, very, very generic. And this is a science. You know, science is very, very precise, very detailed and distinct, you know. And I think that we do it a disservice by being vague and staying vague, you know. So I ask specific questions. So, you know, what half that hasn't been deciphered? And, you know, that question has never been answered. Has not been answered. So, yeah, that's an opinion out there. And, you know, everybody's entitled to an opinion. So we don't want to That's like human inalienable rights. Especially in the United States, you have freedom of speech. Everyone has opportunity to give an opinion and the whole nine. But what's at issue here is how valuable is the opinion? Like, what value can we place on your opinion? You know how they say opinions come dime a dozen, and everybody has them, or opinions like noses, everybody has them. All these different sayings. But what value can we place on them? On a scale from 0 to 10, what value can we place on these different opinions? Is it an uninformed opinion? Is it a well-informed opinion? Like, did you do a lot of research? Have you read all of what the scholars are saying? The teachers, scholars from of old and of current, the latest data, et cetera, et cetera. Are you developing your opinion based on that, or are you just coming out the blue sky, coming out the middle of the ocean, and just tossing your opinion out there? So that's the issue. But I've heard that, but can never get an answer.
Yeah, somebody said half, and then I guess everybody kind of just ran with it, But yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll never get to know which half has never been translated, or in their opinion translated, but we know about what I mean is decipherment.
Yeah. So so Lisa, yeah.
Hotel family. Testing. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep. TV.
All right. Let's add a little bit about it. I don't know if you guys got a chance to listen to the dissertation last night by Alfred Kwesi when he's talking about this same question.
No, I didn't. So maybe you can give us a summary. Give us a Cliff Note version.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick summary real quick. But his take on it was that if we say it can't be deciphered, we're incorrect. And if we say it's all been deciphered, we're incorrect. When we trace it back, looking at I guess Meratic or what have you. You can kind of speak on this once I get done. You can kind of elaborate on it some more. If you look at Meratic, where we can't, thus has not been translated. But this is what he was trying to state last night. We try to lump it all into one category, whereas we understand we're studying Middle Egyptian, whereas we might not study Old Egyptian or Newer Kingdom or what have you. So based on that, when people say it has not been deciphered, we have to at least narrow down which error are you speaking of that has not been deciphered. And then once you figure it out, okay, like you said, of those that haven't been deciphered, can you pinpoint or point out to me the ones that have not been deciphered? But until that's been done, then it's just a hypothetical claim. So that's kind of one thing he said. And as far as the overall topic of the concept tonight, where these opinions come from, he was pretty blunt in stating that this all started with, like you said, Walter Williams. Anyone jumping on the bandwagon currently, they're basically feeding off of what Walter Williams said. And he basically said that Dr. Bean and other teachers, Jacob Carruthers, they were against Walter Williams and his claim. They firstly, he said that Dr. Bean wouldn't speak with Walter Williams. He sent Oshwa to speak with Walter Williams about it. And he said, Oshwa lets you know that he spoke with Walter Williams and let him know that this is inaccurate. And so that was basically, part of his thesis last night. And I'll let you go ahead and speak on that. But and if I think of some more things that he stated, I'll reiterate those as well. Hotep family.
All right, Hotep, I appreciate that, Dua. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to tune in to the broadcast. So yeah, Elder Ashwa Kwesi was on a blog talk show last night, which is what the brother Antoine is speaking about. But yeah, I want to make a comment about that though. See, and it all falls back on it all falls back on what was I saying? It all falls back on the definition of what decipherment is. And I really don't think that people are understanding what decipherment is. So just for the sake of those who are watching now, those who watch the archives, to get some clarification on there and be as concise as possible, Just understand that decipherment is basically establishing the relationship between a writing system and the verbal communication that writing system represents. You are establishing the relationship between the two. Okay, so in other words, decipherment is in need of two components: a writing system and a language. And by language, I mean speech. Okay, because a lot of people use that term language broadly. Well, sometimes people say language, they could be talking about the writing script and or they could be talking about the spoken speech or the speech, but we have to be very, very clear and distinct. So you have the writing system, i.e. or e.g. Or aka script, and then you have the language or the speech or the verbal communication. So a writing system is the graphic representation of that which is spoken. So when you're deciphering, you are performing a wedding. You are marrying the writing system to the speech that it represents. Okay, so in order for something to even be classified as a writing system, it has to represent verbal communication. So when the subject of melodic comes up, melodic is a different writing system. So we have to be cautious to bring that up when we're talking about the decipherment of Sesh Medew Netcher. Those are two totally different things, different writing systems and so on and so forth, the relationship to the language that represents. So we got to be mindful not to bring that up in the conversation. That'll be no different than me bringing up Arabic into the discussion of decipherment with Sesh Medew Netcher. You're like, well, wait a minute. Arabic is, you got an Arabic script, and then you have Arabiya as the language that Arabs speak, that go together. So you do have scripts that are named something, and you have languages that are named something, and those names match. So for example, Coptic is a name that scholars have given to the speech, a spoken language, and Coptic is also the name or a name given to a writing system, which happens to be a modified Greek script. So we have to be mindful of that. So this is why, in us being very precise, we understand that what is commonly called hieroglyphic or the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system is known indigenously as Sesh Medew Netcher. So I hear people will toss around the word Medew Netcher or Sesh Medew Netcher or whatever the case is now, not knowing that we're talking strictly about the script. This is why we put the word Sesh in front of Medew Netcher. Sesh means to write, to scribe, to scratch, to etch in. Okay, so we're talking about something that is written, scribed, carved. Sesh Medew Netcher, that's the writing system. The speech of ancient Egypt was called Ra Ni Kemet. So these are two distinct terms and labels for different things. So people will have to understand that. Now, if we don't even use the indigenous terms, we'll understand Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system versus the Egyptian language, spoken language. So at the very least, people need to, even if they want to use those terms, they still should be able to make that distinction between the two. All right, so that has to be understood. So when people say, only 50% of it's been deciphered, like, what are you talking about? 50% of the writing system has been deciphered. So show me which glyphs. You should be able to show me 50% out of all the totality of glyphs. 50% of those should be undeciphered. Give me that. Show me that. Where's the list of that? In order to validate or show the evidence or support the claim that only 50% has been deciphered. And there's a difference between decipherment and translation, because you can decipher a writing system, but then have mistranslations floating around on different texts, different inscriptions. The Bible is an example. We have so many different translations of the Bible, but no one will say that the Greek or the Hebrew from which they are translating from has not been deciphered. some people will look at a certain version or a certain translation of the Bible and say, hey, nope, that's a mistranslation. But they would never say that the language from which they drew from have not been deciphered. All right, so we have to keep these things in mind. So this is what I'm talking about in terms of people needing to slow down and understand what these terms mean and how they are effectively used in these fields of science, these scientific disciplines. All right, and because people are not familiar with it, that's where we get the confusion. We get a lot of the opinions that we see. You know, like I said, you know, everyone has opinions and that's fine, but we have to be able to know the values of those opinions.
It makes me think of the visual that you presented with the 4 boxes. I'm not sure if I'm jumping ahead or not, but the visual with the 4 boxes where you have to have the language to connect with the script.
Mm-hmm.
When you had the, I guess it was like the 4 quarters, the quadrants, and you have yellow, yellow, green, red.
Right.
And the green was the one that is deciphered if we have a language that we can connect with the script.
Yeah.
So I guess with the I'm pronouncing it Meretic, MEROTIC, Meretic.
Neurotic. Mm-hmm.
Merotic. I guess that's the Nubian script that has not been deciphered.
Right. It hasn't been fully deciphered. Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much due because they don't have a language to connect with it, whereas Coptic was able to connect with the Sesh.
Exactly. And like I said, you have to marry the two. All right. So yeah, that just has to be made clear. Those things have to be made clear. So people just got to really slow down and take these terms and be very precise with these terms, you know, and understand what decipherment is. All right. So even though the December 18th event is coming up, you know, I asked this question, as I said, and it wasn't answered because out of fear that it would ruin the event. And it's not a question that would ruin the event at all. It would actually make the event more valid, you know, or give it more meaning. Because if the topic of the event is, has the Medew Netcher been deciphered or not, we have to have a working definition that everybody, all parties can agree on. It's just that simple. So if you got 2 opposing arguments and one side doesn't even know the definition of decipherment, then you really can't have a true successful event or debate. Brother June, you had something to say? All right, so yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that that's pretty clear. You know, I don't know if y'all keeping your eyes on the chat, but that has to be made crystal clear. So when you're deciphering, there's four scenarios. All right, so remember this: there's 4 scenarios. One scenario, first of all, decipherment requires 2 components. All right, remember this: decipherment requires 2 components. Component 1 is a writing system or script. Component 2 is a language. If there is no language that is represented by the script, then there's nothing to decipher. There's no message to decipher. Okay, so that's what's needed. And there's 4 scenarios that are at play. One scenario, or the first scenario, is when you know the script or the writing system and you know the language. Now, in that situation, there is no need for decipherment. That would not be called decipherment. That would just simply be called reading comprehension. Because when you understand the writing system or the script and you understand the language behind it, then that's just a simple matter of reading comprehension. That's what we do all day, every day when we read books that we read in English. We understand English language and we understand the script. the Roman script that we use to write it. All right, so that's reading comprehension. That's the first scenario, which is not really a case of decipherment. Then you have another scenario where you don't know the script and you don't know the language. And in that scenario, decipherment becomes impossible. Because if you don't know the writing system and you don't know the language that it's supposed to represent, then you cannot decipher. You're at a standstill. You're at a brick wall. So there's really only two scenarios that actually bring about a situation of decipherment. And that is when you know one or the other. Either you know the script and don't know the language, or you know the language and don't know the script. And you could solve for the other. So whichever one, if you know one of them, you could solve for the other one, and and vice versa. Those are cases of deciphering or decipherment. All right, and this is something that people have to understand, and this needs to be understood well before any type of event takes place about whether or not Sesh Medew Netcher or the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system has been deciphered or not. That has to be made clear. Okay, and right now it's not clear, and I say that based on my observation of social media and every single person who seems to want to talk about this subject. There's a lot of confusion about that. Just that basic thing. That right there has to be understood. And then, then you can have a nice, progressive, healthy, nice event, nice, good conversation, two opposing views, offering their evidence, offering information, so on and so forth. That's how you do that, But to start off without a working definition of decipherment and have a full understanding of the process, then, it's not looking good. Yep. So was there any other I'm gonna check out the comments, but if anybody else on the panel had some other opinions that have been floating around. I see Akut Chesi. He says, this is the reason why I posed a question to Asar. Could the lack of vowels be to allow for the accommodation of different dialects? Okay. Now, on that kind of question, he's referring to the lack of vowels being present in the writing system. Could it be used to accommodate different dialects and things like that?
Can I say something real quick and let you go in?
Yeah. Yeah.
We know. I think initially Hebrew didn't have vowels, and I think it's another language that initially didn't have vowels.
Arabic.
Well, I want to say Arabic. Yeah, I want to say Arabic. Yeah, Arabic. We know those languages didn't initially have vowels, and from my reading, we know that the I want to say connections, or Khosian, the cliques. They speak their language as a clique, and that clique is basically a language that's spoken with no vowels. It's just cliques, and that stems from the mimicking the baboons. This is where we get the author of the Medew Netcher being Tahuti. So that's my take on that when it comes to speaking on the vowels and not having vowels.
Okay, but now we have to be careful because all speech has vowels. You can't talk without vowels. Vowels, the word vowel itself means voice. So the voice of a language has to be there to actually have verbal communication. So verbal, voice, vowels, they're present in the speech. So we have to separate whether the vowels are documented in visual, the graphical representation of speech, which is called the writing system. So did the writing system document graphically the vowels that you hear and you heard? So the brother's question is basically, was that done to accommodate the different dialects and things like that? Well, when it comes to Semitic languages, the documentation of consonants only allowed for effective and efficient ways of writing, because what happens in Semitic languages such as Hebrew and Arabic, the vowels will change the semantic scope of a word. So and they would refer to that as, you know, these inflection phenomena of inflection, where, you know, like let's say like a popular example that they give is the consonantal cluster KTB, Kataba, which would be KATABA, Kataba. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but that form would be maybe the infinitive verb, you know, to write. And then kitub or katub or kitub or kitab would be book, which is a derivative of the action to write. You know, when you write something, you produce a book. So the same consonants are there, but the vowels changed, which will force the slight change in the meaning. So you have that phenomena that goes on in Semitic languages. So this is what has been hypothesized of, you know, what probably or could take place in the writing system of ancient Egypt, in terms of the different vowels being placed there to have these different semantic shadings on the different words. You know, so you know, so those are different ways or reasons why the vowels could be omitted. But when you go to what the scholars will call the later stage or the latest stage of the Egyptian language, which they refer to as Coptic, the vowels are there. The vowels are reflected. The vowels are documented in the Coptic script, which is a modified Greek script.
Also, remember you stating when it relates to the pronunciation or the sounds of the consonants. Even if we try to say a consonant, we have to make a vowel sound to even say that consonant.
Right.
Like, or if we say like B, you got to say buh. Right. You have to add that vowel sound to make that consonant sound.
Right. Like a P. See, and this is another thing. This is also another thing that people just got to take some time out and just learn and be aware of, is that what we're calling consonants. Let's just take the English language, for example. We have 26 consonants. 26 letters in the alphabet. Most of them being consonants, and the names of the consonants that we use in everyday talking about it, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, et cetera, those are just the lay names that we use all day, every day. But each one of those consonants have a more scientific name. And the scientific name is a descriptive name of the place of articulation and the manner of articulation of that particular sound. So like, for example, the letter P, as in Paul. The letter, we named the letter P and we call it P, but to be more descriptive, it is actually a voiceless bilabial plosive. That is a more detailed scientific name for that letter P. So what we just simply say letter P is really a voiceless bilabial plosive. So, and what I just said, when I say voiceless, I'm saying that there's no vocal cords involved. There's no vibration of the vocal cords involved whatsoever. So that's what voiceless means. The word bilabial, the word labia means lips. So if I say bilabial, I'm saying two lips. The word bi is two. So I'm saying voiceless, no voice. Bilabial means two lips. And then the word plosive, which means that the air is obstructed, it builds up, and then it explodes out. So now think about that. Now that I described it, if it's voiceless, you're not going to hear anything you're not going to do anything with your vocal cords. So a P, a true P, voiceless bilabial plosive, is simply a pop sound. This sound right here. That's it. That's what a P is. But nobody really pronounces words like, nobody will pronounce Paul like all. Nobody does that. You know, so these consonants have this innate voice with them in terms of how we talk and how we speak. You know what I'm saying? So people just have to understand that. And there's really no difference between a P as in Paul and a B as in boy. The only difference is that one is voiced and one is unvoiced. So a P, no vocal cords, it sounds like, and then a B is voiced. So a B is a voiced bilabial plosive. Same thing, but except I use my vocal cords. B. So you hear the vibration. B, b, b. That's the difference. P. That's the difference between a P and a B. So when we look at the scientific names of it, we see what's going on. It describes it accurately. It describes exactly what's going on. And this is why the P and the B within languages and then across languages, they interchange with one another because they're very, very close. They're almost the same, except one is voiced and one is unvoiced. This is why you see an interchange between a P and a B in a lot of languages. You'll see interchanges between nasals, what they call nasals, which will be the letter N. And they call it a nasal because the air goes out your nose instead of your mouth. The letter M as in Mary and the letter N as in Nancy are nasals. So these are more scientific, more precise names for these letters that we give the common lay names to: M, N, J, K, L, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? So these are some of the things that people have to be aware of before they can start to have a very informed conversation about whether a language has been deciphered or not, or the elements and the ins and outs of decipherment. So it's not something that, you know, people should take lightly and or take for granted and just start talking about. But yeah, I'm just going to scroll down. So if anybody else has any more comments, you know, I mean, y'all know me, I'm MC Iron Lung, and I don't want to hog the mic.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think one of the things that I've noticed about you know, the people who are talking about the language not being deciphered, and you know, I noticed that when the, you know, because they obviously the lack literature review they have, and they don't have a lot of books that they're well read in regarding the language or just languages and scripts in general. But the other thing that I think I find to be common among these individuals is the fact that if they mention any book, then they actually mention books that are not up to date books. They will, you know, mention books from, you know, from 100 years ago or 80 years ago, 70 years ago. So all the claims are based on something that has passed. They haven't done the you know, the due diligence to read on what has been the progress, you know, up to date, and what is being done up to date, and what is the people who are learning the Medew Netcher, what is it that they're basing their learning from. So that is just one thing I wanted to note, you know, especially when people talking about Champollion and the other people who didn't decipher and all of that. You just find that they will be actually cycling, you know, or circling around, you know, that period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally
I got a
agree.
question. I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this animosity toward, or I should say resentment toward those who can read it, is coming from the methodology, the approach that has been taken to learn the language, so to say?
Repeat that
Do you,
question. Say again.
okay, do you think that they are resenting the methodology that we take and others take toward deciphering the Medew Netcher? Are they like, go ahead.
So last part again.
Yeah, are they against it, like totally like, nah, it's wrong because that's not the right way?
No, see, in order for somebody to say that you're doing something the wrong way, they have to have insight on something towards the correct way. So that's not what's going on right here. What is more so like is that there's an appeal to laziness, because a lot of the people and it's not that many people, so I don't want to even exaggerate. But out of the people who are saying that the Sesh Medew Netcher has not been deciphered, like I said earlier, 100% of those people that I have ever encountered, they have never studied the language. So it's an appeal to laziness. It's like microwaving the study. That's like saying that DNA, the human genome, has never been mapped. That's like somebody just coming out the blue just saying that today. Like let's just say somebody post that on Facebook tonight. The human genome has never been mapped. But yet you have people who have done it, people who are using it every day, people are relying on it and the whole nine today. But yet somebody just comes out the blue and says the human genome has not been mapped. You know, and so really what they're saying is, and then if you ask them, well, do you study biogenetics? Are you a genetic engineer? Are you well studied in that or whatever to make that, to have that opinion, whatever? And they'll say no. So it comes down to people bypassing the necessary prerequisites to even have those kinds of opinions, which is to actually rigorously study the material. It takes time. All of this stuff takes time. And we live in a microwave society now. And I mean that literally and figuratively, because everything we do is very fast. You know, we're spoiled because of the luxuries of technology, and now we have access to everybody in real time. We could text message people, call people right there on the spot. You know what I'm saying? We could send emails. At first we had to write a letter and mail it. It takes at the least 2 days, 3 days to get there. Now it's instant. You push the button, send, boom, they got it already. Text message, same thing. Calling people, same thing. All the way to what we eat, like literal microwave foods. Now it doesn't take a half an hour to fix a dinner. It takes 3 minutes. You pop something in there for 3.5 minutes, bing, pull it out, turn it over, another 2 minutes, bing, you're done. So everything is fast. So now people are doing it to all of the mental or intellectual things. Now everybody wants to microwave that. So it's a spillover into the conditioning of the overall society that we live in as well. So it's an appeal to laziness, that people are not studying these things, and then they're just coming up with these opinions, these uninformed opinions, you know, and then those who are doing it have to take time out to address it, you know. So, you know, and it's but so much you could do. So, you know, that's what I'm observing. You know, I don't observe people who are actually studying it. See, it would be different if somebody actually studied the language in and out, and they can articulate themselves very well. They can prove that they understand what the arguments are, why the arguments are what they are, and then come up with a different opinion, or an opposing opinion, or an opposing information, or opposing argument. That will be well respected. But this is not what's going on. These people are just saying, just for the sake of saying, it hasn't been deciphered. And then if you ask them why, then they'll say things like, how does a vulture become the letter A? And right there, you already know that, okay, this person has no clue to what they're talking about. You know, that's like, you know, that's equivalent of like I said, somebody saying that, hey, the human genome has never been mapped, hasn't been done. But yeah, people have done it, using it, and the whole nine. DNA studies galore all day, every day. You know, breakthroughs in DNA, genetic medical practices, and all this stuff that's going on today as a result of the human genome being mapped and so on and so forth. But yet here comes somebody or a group of people saying, a small group of people saying, hey, the human genome has never been mapped. And then you ask them why. And then their answer or response is, because how can a monkey become a man? And you're like, oh my goodness. You know, so you know, it's almost laughable. And that's what we're seeing here with the language.
Man, I call them walking contradictions. They contradict themselves repeatedly.
Right. You do have that going on. Definitely. But they don't know that they're contradicting themselves because, like I said, they don't understand. They don't understand what's going on. Like, and I'll give you an example. If you don't think that a script is indeed a script, a writing system, then of course you're not going to think decipherment took place. But if you say that it's a writing system, then you're basically contradicting yourself, because if it's a writing system, based on what a writing system is in and of itself, it is the graphic or visual representation of speech, then it is a communication device. So in other words, it's all about communication. If I wanted to communicate like I'm talking now, so you're hearing me, so I have to be present. So the speaker and the listener have to be present in real time. Now, if I wanted to write something, if I write something down, I no longer have to be present. I could write down what I'm saying, which is the act of writing is the act of encoding speech. So I'm encoding my speech into visual or graphic form. Then I can leave and give you, or leave it for you to pick up off the table and read it. And the act of reading is decoding the written graphical representation of what I said. Although you're not hearing me at that time that you're reading, you can decode what I had encoded. So that's the purpose of a writing system. So once you admit that the Egyptian hieroglyphs is a writing system, you've already defeated everything else you're going to say after that. So these are the little things that, this is why, this debate is not a debate, because this is something that's not really, it's not really real. It's just, it's an opportunity for people to learn. December 18th, people will just be able to learn something, which is good. It's a good thing, But I was going through the comments, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I personally don't believe that it's going to be a controlled environment where people are going to be able to learn. I mean, it's I want to tune into it, but I'm not going to even tune into it, because it's going to be a bunch of distractions going on. So I don't think it's going to be even, a place to come to learn, because there's going to be so much, so many distractions. It's going to take away from, from the overall thing of actually teaching and going through the different steps. I mean, because like you say, you can't microwave this, and in order for people to understand it, you're gonna have to walk them through it step by step. And it's just, I don't think it's just gonna be enough time to be able to do all that. You know what I'm saying? Again, it's not a controlled environment. I mean, this thing is put on. It's nothing wrong with debating, but this thing, this platform, you know what I'm saying, and these debates, it's for entertainment. It's for entertainment purposes. The individuals that are coming to see, you know what I'm saying, to see the event, I mean, they want to be entertained. And again, this stuff is you can't microwave. You have to, you have to walk them through step by step. It's boring. And a lot of us, a lot of those individuals is not going to sit down and pay attention, because you teaching. Ain't going to buy, nobody's going to be hollering. Nobody's going to be cussing. Nobody's going to be doing backwards flips. Nobody's going to be, on the scholastic side, nobody's going to be coming out there with rappers. Nobody's going to be prancing with girls walking around the thing. See, that's what they coming to see. You see, so I don't think it's, that this thing is people still going to leave, and it's still people is not going to understand what translation, transliteration is, what decipherment is, you know what I'm saying? What is a writing script? What is a spoken language? What is manual decodage? They're not going to be, they're still going to be confused. People still going to walk away with wondering if the Medew Netcher has been deciphered or not. And then, like Antoine said, the individuals that are opposing that the Medew Netcher has not been deciphered, they have been using language, You know, they've been staying translated. The Medew Netter has so and y'all actually just taught them about decipherment a couple of weeks ago because they was using the wrong term. So they was coming to debate was the Medew Netter has been translated instead of the Medew Netter has been deciphered. So these individuals, you know what I'm saying, they still don't have a clue of what's going on for us with the language, the methods and what we utilize, what we use in order to translate. They don't understand that the conventional speak that we're speaking, again, that we reiterated earlier, that the conventional speak that we're using, it's conventional. It's not actually accurate, but it does not take away from the meaning, you know, from the meaning of the words. I mean, so it's just, to me, it's just going to be a waste of time. December the 19th is the day afterwards. Nobody is still going to know if the Medew Netter has been fully the Medew Netter has been fully deciphered, or nobody is going to know, okay, this part of the Medew Netter, this is the 50%, this is the 50%, blase, this and that. No one is going to know it's been deciphered all the way. I mean, it's like I say, it's just a bit, it's just a bit confusing again. And I know people get tired of me saying about institutions. Until we start getting the institutions, get these institutions where we able to go from one step to the next step, people graduating from the next step, graduating, to the next step, you know what I'm saying, and getting these things down, people are still going to be confused. Again, this is going to be entertainment that on December 18th. Nobody's going to learn any damn thing.
Well, yeah. Oh, I was gonna say something.
Oh yeah, I was going to say they're going to have to show us the 40 to 50%. And they're going to have to know what they're talking about. Yes, they're going to have to. You're right. They're going to have to put it all on the line, because if they're just going to sit up there and entertain, they're not going to answer any of the questions, and the people going to have doubts.
No, you know that's not going to happen. It will never happen. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
Because to actually prove, then they have to go through, study the decipherment process, and this is what all these people haven't done. So it's just something people just firing away, from the top of the mouth. So there will be no evidences coming from that part. It will be purely entertainment, and I agree with saying coffee on some parts, and just to say that for some people this is just another way of making money, or putting again your name out there, and you can see that clearly. I mean, because there are no rules with with the debate, because even to have what you would call a debate, I mean, just coming from that end, from whoever is coming in with a claim and all of that, they would have to have some kind of proof from the very beginning. This has never been done, so I don't even know how they're going to do that at this point. If they haven't, if they're throwing all kinds of words all over the place and all of that.
Well, see, some people have to understand that when it comes to debates, if anybody who's a fan of debating, like real debates and stuff like that, first of all, one of the fundamental things about debating is that you're not necessarily trying to convince your opponent. The two opposing sides are not trying to convince each other in real time. The goal is one of the things that you do is you're just going to plant a seed. That's one. Two, the amount of time, depending on the subject matter, the amount of time that's allotted for both sides to speak is never enough time to do any convincing anyway. So what you have to do, so the way that real debates are designed is that prior to the debate, both sides should have already made clear their arguments. This is how come, like in the legal court system, in the judicial system, lawyers on the prosecution side and the defense side, they file what's called motions. They file complaints. They file motions. They file these things into the court to make their arguments very, very clear in writing first. And then they come inside the courtroom to orally argue their points. But the points have been read by the other side. So if I'm a defense attorney, I will file a motion. I have to serve it on the other party. That means I have to give a copy over to the prosecution and file it with the clerk of courts. so the judge can have it and for the court's records and seeing things like that. So the judge gets it, the opposing side gets it well before we get into the courtroom to orally argue it, because it's an understanding that the actual oral argument part of it is very limited in time and so on and so forth. So a lot of real progressive debates are styled that way. So this is why what we're seeing in the conscious community is not really debates. They're not debates. They, we should create a different name for it. It's not a debate. That's why the December 18th, although it's titled a debate, it's not really a debate. It's a misnomer. You know what I'm saying? So knowing all of that stuff, the best thing you could do is just plant the seeds and expose people to some information so that they can seek out further information. Because you're not going to have time to teach, because this, like I said, that's like trying to cram an astrophysics course inside of an hour. There's no way you can't do that. Just imagine somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson learning all that he knows, in one day. Let's say, like, I'm not even saying an hour, just a whole day. You can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So all you can do is just give a presentation, you plant the seed and you keep it moving, and that's it. That's all that can happen, period. Because of the way it's styled out. These things are not in writing, So I come from the school where, you debate on paper and then you come and you orally argue. I've been a part of debate teams, and that's exactly what we do, or what we've done, and as well as paralegal work. So I'm familiar with the process, even in the legal system, and it's very, very effective and very, very efficient. And that's how you get to the truth, because the whole point of debating is to really get to the truth, get to the accurate information. You have two people that are looking at the same set of evidence, because remember, even in a court scenario, you have what's called discovery, where let's say somebody is charged with a crime. The prosecution brings up charges of the crime based on the law, et cetera, but they're basing it on evidence. The defense has to get that evidence. They have to know what the prosecution has. So you have the defense and the prosecution are utilizing the same data, same evidence, but it's just that the interpretation of the evidence and the connections and the the inferences that are made with the evidence, et cetera, will differ. And that's what you're arguing, and the application of the law. So likewise, in a scholastic debate, similar things take place, So the question is, what is the evidence? What is the evidence that these people have that the Sesh Medew Netcher has not been deciphered? You know what I'm saying? And the burden of proof is on them. It's always on the person making the claim. But anyway,
I'm telling y'all, there's no evidence, but in reality, I mean, there has to be some rules set, because in reality, this should never even been a debate. It should not be something that is actually going through a debate or anything like that. So you find that people end up spending so much time in things that are not of that importance in that reality, when people could be discussing other things of use. So it's just entertainment, and for the other party. And I understand from what you're saying that it's a good thing also that a lot of people who haven't been aware of the Medew Netcher, that will be a good teaching moment. Some people probably will come in there and will come up with a lot, hopefully, when the evidences come out and all of that, some people will actually learn a lot coming from the Amun-Ra squad and whatnot, because at this point, what people have been running around with is just, the claims without the evidence, and it's a shame. It will be pushing away some people who, might want to learn the language, or the language might be of use to. So it's a good thing also in a way, in a sense, that would be a point where most of the people will have to, kind of get to know a little bit more about the language than they are usually accustomed to.
right. And also something that people need to definitely keep in mind, that if the language or the writing system, the Sesh Medew Netcher, the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system, has not been deciphered, then the question then becomes, what have all these people been teaching? Because anytime you make reference to a king, what a king did, their name, their family name, their successor, their predecessor, all of these different stories from the Netcheru or the deities, let's just say it hasn't been deciphered. So I can't say the word Netcheru. So all of these Egyptian gods, all of the stories surrounding the Egyptian gods, all the Egyptian kings, all the different stories, the wars, the everything, and even the claims that the Abrahamic traditions plagiarized their stories from Egypt. None of those claims can be made if people are saying that the writing system has not been deciphered, because how would you know? Period. How would you know? So, I don't think people understand the repercussions of, or the consequences of, people saying that the language is unknown and the writing system hasn't been deciphered. So that's something for people to think about. But I'm scrolling and I'm seeing Black History 365. He said that Brother Zion Lex made comments about the Hebrew language, but it's kind of long. So I'm gonna the gist of it is basically Hebrew language is unlike any other language. It's unlike every other language. It did not develop gradually over time as a conglomerative nuances of other languages, et cetera, et cetera. That's just completely false. I mean, and these are examples of people who are not well versed or studied in the scientific field or the subfields of different linguistic disciplines. A language does not come out of the clear blue sky. Languages belong to families, just like a human being. Like, none of us that are alive today just sprung out of nowhere. We belong to a lineage and a community of people, that we are connected to and related to genetically.
Right. They wouldn't even have he wouldn't even have a Hebrew script if it wasn't for the Canaanites. I mean, that script, the mother script to the Hebrew script is the Canaanite script. So I don't understand. Is he saying like one of the now I ain't gonna state it, I'm not gonna talk about it, brother, but one of the Hebrew brothers that said that Hebrew is the first language. Is that what Zion's saying, that the Hebrew language popped up out of nowhere because it was the first language on the planet? But these individuals, like I say, you don't get a Canaanite script until they go so-called go into the land of Canaan after the so-called Exodus out of Egypt. When they was if these so-called individuals, the children of Israel that was in Israel, I mean that was in Egypt, they didn't speak Hebrew at the time. When they was going through the wilderness 40 days and 40 nights, they didn't speak Hebrew. When Abraham came out of Ur, he did not speak Hebrew. So I just don't get it, man, when these guys be talking and people be eating this stuff up, man. It's crazy.
Well, see, whether he's talking about the writing system or the language, in either case, it's just completely false, because there's things that are inherent in language. We have to remember, we're talking about communication. We're not telepathic. Human beings are not telepathic. We communicate in different ways and modes. And one of the major ways that we communicate is through verbal communication, speech. And, this is what sets us apart from different other species on the planet, So, for people to say that, and then, to claim that like Hebrew is the holy language, they say Lashon Kodesh. See, those are just claims. Those are just, empty claims, because I could match that claim with how they translate the word Medew Netcher. The very phrase Medew Netcher, people translate it as God's word, or God, the words of God, or divine words, like how we say Seshew Medew Netcher, loyal scribes of divine words. So if I just wanted to say, okay, the phrase, I have an indigenous phrase, Medew Netcher, divine words. So does that mean it's unlike any other language and so on and so forth? No. So that's what I'm saying. People have to really slow down and do some studying and see. It's just that people will say these things and maybe to an audience it will sound heavy, it'll sound good, and then it'll be accepted. But we just got to be mindful of that and give people an option to understand, the information better. So I'm just going down the list. So Lisa says other opinions I hear is that it's not deciphered because there's no one speaking the language today. Okay, so we already covered that. Let's see.
I guess for that question, you might just want to reiterate semantics and meaning as opposed to a pronunciation. Make sure she understands that.
Well, yeah, she's just repeating opinions, but we kind of covered. So yeah, I mean, pronunciations are a separate issue from understanding the meaning of a word. And in fact, I mean, this is just something. This is just some very, very basic something that anybody could do. Anybody who listens to me right now, whatever book that's closest to you, just pick up any book and read it. And what we would call silent. Read it silently to yourself. What you are doing is you're not pronouncing anything, but yet you're comprehending it. So therefore, that small little simple example of doing that real quick is one of the ways you can show that pronunciation or the pronouncing of words is a separate issue from understanding meaning. Because when we all read books to ourselves and we're not pronouncing it out loud or what they call reciting out loud or read out loud, we are actually not pronouncing anything at all, but yet we can still understand it. So yeah, I'm just trying to go down the list and make sure I didn't miss anything. But yeah, that's just to reiterate the difference between the pronunciation and understanding the meaning. So another opinion is that it isn't deciphered because the books about it being deciphered is written by Europeans. Yeah. See, that's going to be dealt with on the
Where Damo at?
Cue it up.
Let's see. Another opinion is that it isn't deciphered because the book. Okay, I already read that. Let's see. It says after 30 years of speaking English. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything. The difference between. Okay, we have another person. Difference between decryption and decipherment. Okay. Well, put it this way. Well, if somebody asking that question, the difference between decryption and decipherment is that decryption is done on what's called cryptography, and decipherment is something that's different. So deciphering a cryptic message people will use these words interchangeably, but to be very clear and very precise, when people say that a cryptic message is being deciphered, what they're really saying is that it's being decrypted. Decipherment and decryption is different. All right, so we can't confuse the two at all. So I hope that people, some people will do that, and they have done that. They will make that mistake. But decryption is associated with cryptography or cryptology, and it is basically a process to transform a ciphertext into a plain text. All right, that's what decryption is doing. You're just transforming a cipher into plain text. That's something different than
When they ask about decipherment, it makes me think of when some people, I guess, the esoteric meaning of the glyphs, as far as people commenting on that, or kind of trying to go into, it's been, you can read it, but what about the esoteric meaning? I guess, can we speak on this as far as how that relates to looking at the text and looking at a glyph and a stela or what have you, and getting information, and then from there having to dig more into it, learn about the individuals, and how that relates to us connecting with the culture.
Okay, again, see, that's a good thing, because that comes up a lot. But again, you know, and I think we went over this before in another hangout, but we have to remember that decipherment is something totally different. When people talk about exoteric versus esoteric, that's not an issue of decipherment. That is an issue because the reason why I say that is because you can have someone today that is that can speak English, that can read and write English, but they can pick up the lyrics to a rap song and not know what the intended meanings are, what the rapper is saying, even though it's written in English using the Roman or Latin script to write it and everything, but they may not know what the rapper is trying to convey. So, but nobody will say that the English language has not been deciphered in that instance. You see, so there's a difference. So when we're talking about esoteric and exoteric, we're talking about figurative speech, the use of figurative language by way of metaphor, allegory, symbolisms, myth, simile, hyperboles, all these different things that are involved with figurative speech. That is different than decipherment. Decipherment deals with the writing system. Can you marry the writing system to the language? That's what this decipherment is involved. But when you're trying to talk about figurative language, now you have to actually understand the realities behind the intended meanings. That's a semantic issue. All right, you're trying to understand what was the meaning that was trying to be conveyed, even though you understand the language. You know, I could speak figuratively, like I could say, "Hey, Antoine, those shoes are hot." Now, because you and I understand what I mean by it, we're okay, and I would say that to you. But to a person who understands English, they understand every single word I said. They understand the name Antoine. They understand the name shoes. They understand the verb are. They understand the word hot. They know how to spell it, and they understand those words. But they might not understand my meaning behind them. You know, what my message I'm conveying to you behind it. So they'd be like, "Oh man," they may call you and be like, "Antoine, are you okay? Did you get home from the hospital? Were your feet on fire?" You know, they may take it literally, like your feet was on fire. But I said, "Nah, those shoes are hot. You know, where you get those from?" You know what I'm saying? So that's figurative language. That's different than decipherment. That's something that's different than decipherment. All right. So I just want to make sure, you know, that's made clear. And this is what people are talking about when they say esoteric. You got to remember, esoteric, anybody can look up the word esoteric. It simply means that a group of people know something and another group of people don't. I mean, when the smoke clears, that's what you're saying. And that's just something different. You know,
and it's like digging deep into something. Like exoteric is like looking at something from the surface base, and esoteric is going into it, digging deep.
no, look, you know, maybe somebody could look it up real quick and read us the definition so that we won't, you know, be guessing or anything like that. All right, I have it pulled up, so I'm gonna read it. Esoteric. I'm actually looking at the etymology of it, so we can get a historical look at its progress. So from the 1650s, that it's used. It's from the Greek esoterikos, which means belonging to an inner circle. And it's from esotero, which means more within. A comparative adverb of eso, which means within, from the Proto-Indo-European enso, suffix form of ens, extended from the root en, which means in. That's it. That's the historical background of the word esoteric. And then if you look up the common use of the word and how it's used, it's talking about when you're applying it to knowledge or information, you're talking about information that is known by a secluded or an inner circle of people, a small number of people, as opposed to a larger number of people, etc. So, like for example, all businesses, like Apple, the company Apple Inc., Apple, that everybody got an iPhone for, they have esoteric knowledge because they have corporate information that is only in-house. They are not going to fully disclose all of their corporate information to any and everybody. They're not going to disclose how they made and manufacture and what's coming up for the future of the iPhone and this and that. That would be considered esoteric information. The United States military is full of esoteric groups and information. There's things that the military deals with, knows, and all this stuff that the regular citizens, or what they call it, private citizens or whatever, just don't know. Civilians, civilian. You got military personnel versus civilians. Military personnel knows X, Y, and Z. Civilians don't. So from a civilian point of view, that is esoteric knowledge. It's just that simple. So that's that. So when people try to make esoteric into something other than that and other than what it is, then they do it a disservice. All right. So that's really what that's involved. And on top of that, this is very important. Just because something is esoteric does not mean it's accurate. All esoteric means is that it's known by a smaller percentage of the whole. That's where you get the etymology of it being within. So it's something within a body of people that knows something that the people without don't. But it doesn't guarantee that it's accurate. Something could be esoteric all day long, but be wrong. You can be esoteric and wrong all day long. Just like a primary source does not automatically mean it's accurate. There are primary sources that are just wrong all day long. You got primary, secondary, tertiary sources. Just because they're classified as any one of those three does not speak to its accuracy. These are just classifications. All right. So you can have a primary source right there in your hand. You can have a cuneiform tablet right there in your hand that you dug up from Kuwait or Iraq somewhere, and bring it back home to the States, and you have an actual primary artifact right there. But what's written on there could be completely wrong in terms of being accurate or real or whatever. Class it could be a story about Santa Claus. So just keep that in mind. I'm just pointing these things out because all of this stuff, all these things need to be considered when people are engaging in these kinds of conversations. They have to understand, we have to demystify these terms, and on one hand, and on the other hand, we have to show the importance of understanding the specifics of these terms, the precision of these terms. Every single science has precise nomenclature to function in, whether we're dealing with astrophysics, chemistry, the whole nine, like I said. So this is no different. We have to understand what a grapheme is, a morpheme is, a phoneme is, a graph, a glyph, a script, a writing system, a phonograph, logograph, ideograph, pictograph. All these different things. We have to know what a syllabary is. an alphabetic writing system, the different kinds of writing system, logographic writing systems. We have to understand all of these things before we can really, really get into a good conversation about these subjects. But if you notice, this is not what's going on whenever this stuff comes up. People are just offering their opinions, and then that's it. Nobody gives any information. Nobody gives any supporting evidence. Nobody even shows that they're competent enough to even talk about the information. Because the moment you ask them, well, what do you mean by you know, the writing system has not been deciphered? Well, it hasn't been translated. You're like, all right, well, wait a minute. Decipherment and translation are different. Transliteration is different. Pronunciation is different. Transcription is different. You know, so anyway, let's see. I'm just going down the list of people, making sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, Nature TV, Speakers Corner, London. Young Pharaoh made a good point when he said about the patriarchy replacing the matriarchy. So maybe there's been a bit of trickery involved with the odd glyph or sound. Maybe if you could reword that. I'm not quite understanding. Maybe someone on the panel understands what it's saying, because I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's saying because I didn't see the video from Young Pharaoh. But if we want to discuss the matriarch replacing the patriarch, we definitely can discuss that though. But as far as how it relates that relates to language, you got me on that one.
Well, I mean, this is the thing.
Yeah, Pharaoh.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Pharaoh said someone on Baba's channel, Baba Fire every time, where he said that we not Amara Squad is not teaching commit right because the women were the ones who built commit.
Okay, all right. So stop there. See, this is the thing. Anybody could say anything. Like, this is a free country. People got a right to say what they want to say. You got freedom of speech and stuff like that. So again, it goes to the thing that I was saying before. How valuable is that opinion? He said, Amara Squad is not teaching Kemet because the women originally built Kemet. Where is his evidence of that? And whatever evidence that he shows, it has to come from documentation. And that documentation has to be written in a writing system. And that writing system happens to be the hieroglyphic writing system. So if it hasn't been deciphered, how does he know that? Period. Because we're not going to get silly and say, okay, were you there and stuff? Those are rhetorical questions. So the thing is, we are looking at the historical record. So record is something recorded, documented. What language is it documented in? And if you're talking about built Kemet, you're talking about the hieroglyphic writing system, because you can't even run that, modified Greek writing system that they call in Coptic, because that didn't come about till much later. So we're talking about, 5,000 years ago, not just 1,000, 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, roughly in the fourth millennium BCE. So those documents, where what I'm saying, that's what people need to ask. See, this is what I'm saying. People are letting these people make these claims or give these opinions without asking the right questions, or without holding people accountable. And see, when you're in front of a camera, the idea of teaching was taken serious in our communities in ancient times, and even in more historical times. Anybody just couldn't step up and just become a teacher like how you have now. Right now, all you need is an internet connection. You just pay your subscription fee to the internet, create a YouTube account, get a webcam and a mic, and you're good. That's it. All of a sudden, you're a teacher, and you say what people want to hear. You create a buzz, you get some fans, and you get your name, face out there, and that's it. There's really no filter, no criteria for people to be teachers or influential, whether they call themselves teachers or not. But we have to see. Go ahead.
But who is the teachers? I mean, okay, what I'm saying about who is the teachers, you saying these guys that's got these fames. I mean, they not really teaching. I mean, they doing presentations, you know what I'm saying, and submitting some information that they might have researched, but they not showing people what they did, you know, how to do the research. They not showing people uh uh the certain methods on how to research. You know, instead of Googling, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got, you know, you got to compare information, you got to read a certain amount of books, you got to collect this certain amount of data, you got to go into this, you got to go into the linguistics over here. I mean, they're not teaching nobody, they just giving the information. That's why I feel like most of the people that's in this illusionary community that we call the conscious community, I mean, nobody is teaching, and nobody is teaching because like we got, okay, like we talked about individuals that's making opinions about the language. Everybody is speaking with and I say this all the time. Everybody is speaking intelligent. Everybody is speaking with such proper rhetoric. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is speaking like they so deep. So the people that's trying to learn, you know, they think that these individuals know because they're using words like immortalize, you know, ostracize, hypothesize. So they're using all these different words. So it's making them sound smart. So these people that's trying to learn think these people are smart because they're using these types of words and they're able to articulate themselves in a certain manner. You see, but they not teaching, they not showing people, you know what I'm saying, the steps. Like when we go to school and we in school, we go through first grade, they show us, you know what I'm saying, how you get 1 + 1, how 1 + 1 become 2. Nobody, you know, these individuals just saying, okay, this is 2, this is 4, but they not showing you, these so-called teachers is not showing you exactly what to do. Nobody, when we talk about research, nobody knows what research is. Most people, when you ask them, brother, have you researched that? Or, you know, what did you do to research that? What was the steps that you go through? I went to Google. I looked at something, they read something for an hour, and they come back and they think they done some research because they done sat down and Googled some and read something for, you know what I'm saying, and read something for an hour. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of these people that's in this community, you know what I'm saying, they only think, they don't want to teach. They want to continue to push information off on these, on the individuals, you know what I'm saying, on these individuals to keep them to following them. You know what I'm saying? They want to continue to prey off the wheat, you know what I'm saying, so these individuals can keep following them, keep following their platform, you know what I'm saying? So that's why they don't want to teach them. You know what I'm saying? Because they want to keep, you know, these individuals to follow them and to collect money from these naive people that is not going to go back and verify nothing that these individuals is saying.
So that's why I say, see, we have to have what we're missing is responsibility and accountability, and you know, the power is with the people. So if the people are not requiring the quote unquote teachers or the lecturers and things like that to hold them accountable for what they teach, and by asking them questions and requiring and demanding them to show evidence and to support what they're saying, then it's just going to continue. So it's a two-way street. You know, it's the people have to start to force that change, you know. So that's why I'm saying, so like when I read the comment, it says Pharaoh made a good point when he said about patriarchy replacing matriarchy. So maybe there has been a bit of trickery involved with the odd glyph or sound. And Jehuti Ma'at, you know, reiterated the comment that he made. Somebody should have stopped him and asked him the question, how do you know that women built it? What did you use to come to that conclusion? Period. And you can't say the documentation because you are of the belief that the writing system has not been deciphered. So don't go there. So what are you using? You know what I'm saying? And that's where you start the conversation. You know what I'm saying? That's where you start the conversation. So you know,
he's gonna say it's downloaded in his DNA. That's his answer.
Well, then
What?
say that. I'm saying, then when you say that, and then those people who have, you know, enough, you know, are mind enough to you know where to place that. then just keep it moving. Because if you got a
Oh,
difference in your DNA, then well, what was downloaded in my DNA is that you're wrong. So now what?
I'm just wondering when y'all saying that that or he's saying that was it women build Kemet? My question is when you're discussing is it build Kemet? What specifically you build pyramids? Came up with a script because you can't just build. You have to.
He's saying they were the brains behind Kemet. Period.
Fried build.
They were the
But then you have
driving
to.
force behind Kemet, the building.
But they have to be, it has to be, they have to be more clearer than that, driving first on what, so you can't just, and you have to, exactly like Sebaytdome is saying, I mean, if you're talking about, driving first and you give an example, okay, for example, coming up with a writing system, then you have your evidences or the mathematics, figuring out how to build the pyramids, then you come up with your evidences, but you can't just blanket everything and not even provide any kind of, um, anything to back up those kind of claims, and it's already jumbled up in itself. It's not as clear as it can be. So these are all just talk.
But you
Right.
didn't have to go that far. Somebody makes a claim. You ain't even got to go that far. They make the claim. They say that women were the brains behind the building of Kemet. The question still remains: how do you know that? Because first of all, let's put a time on it. You say the women were behind the brains behind the building of Kemet. So let's narrow down the time frame. So give me a ballpark date of when this had occurred, and then whatever date he gives, then you say what documentation, what documents, what historical data are you using to come to that determination? Because you yourself say that the Egyptian writing system has not been deciphered. So therefore, if it hasn't been deciphered, what the heck are you teaching from or getting that from? Or is it through osmosis? Are you downloading this from the sun straight into your chakras or something? You know what I'm saying? That's how you get, you ain't got to get into the controversy of even the subject matter. That's just it.
And that's what he's going to say, though. That's exactly what he's going to say. He's going to say that, okay, I stumbled across something today, and well, actually, I was cleaning up, and I was listening to something and on YouTube, and then when it went off, I'm on a bunch of these different shows, so it actually Baba TV popped up. I don't know what I was listening to. I can't think of the individual name. Now I was listening to one of his lectures, and then it went off, and then the I don't know, was it Baba TV or this Nicholas? Not think it was Baba TV, because I'm not a part of that. I mean, I'm not subscribed to that Nicholas, whatever that is. But and I as I was cleaning up, and I can hear young Pharaoh, and he made a statement, and I walked over there, after I had got through sweeping, I had just shut it off, but he was talking about DNA. He was saying that we are our ancestors, and he was saying we are our ancestors because I am a grandmother, I am a father, I am a father, I am a cousin, I am a niece that has came back. So the lessons that our ancestors learned in the past, when you're dealing, it has been inherited through us through DNA or through genetics. And what my ancestors, I can't even say the word, but the things that my ancestors learned, in the past, it has trickled down through me, through my DNA. And then he used something as cells, and he used that cell has information, and one cell has more information than the biggest encyclopedia have. I think he said the biggest encyclopedia in the world has about 900 some such and such, but he said he has inherited that information, so he does not have to have a book. He has the genetic information that has been passed down from his ancestors.
Okay, well, let me pause you for a second, because everything that you said is an excuse to bypass education and institution and the whole entire educational process, because the essence of what he's saying is that he doesn't need a book. Therefore, by extension, he doesn't need a teacher, and by extension, he doesn't need to go to school. Why? Because he inherited knowledge through his DNA. So that's the underlying thing that he's saying. And you got to notice a pattern with these people. These people are anti-institutions. They're anti-structure, anti-order. So and it is also anti-African. Okay, so you can't pump the fist for Africa and stuff like that and start talking like that. Period.
Exactly.
So
And
so that, but this is what people, right? So that's what he can say. But that's the thing. We have to point that out. We have to point that out. Now, getting to the fact, okay, so you learn it from your DNA. Now, fine. If that's the information you got from your DNA, then guess what? I got some opposing information through my DNA. So now we're still stuck at the thing of who's right, who's wrong. Because if you're right, if the accuracy of what you're saying is based on you getting it from your DNA, then what I'm saying is direct opposite of what you're saying, but I'm getting it from my DNA. So then the question still will remain: who is right and who is wrong? And the person listening still won't know. So this is what science breaks up. Science breaks up that that problem. That is the straight up crux of pseudoism right there. And this is what people are feeling because it appeals to laziness. Anytime that I'm telling a group of people that you don't have to have a book, you could basically just tap into your chakras, stare at the sun, astral project, and then unlock the DNA so you can receive the information passed through your generations. People are going to want to do that before taking time out to take a course that takes 6 months, 4 years, or read books and this, that, and the other. I mean, that's just human nature to do the least physical, strenuous thing. That's why we got these inventions, the remote control TV. We don't want to get up and change the TV anymore. We got a remote control. We can sit on the couch and still change the channel. So we invent these things to appeal to our laziness. So, just like right now, back in the day, I knew all anybody that I called on the phone, I knew their numbers by heart. But now, if you ask me about anybody's number, I can't tell you anybody's number. Sometimes I forget my own phone number, because of this technology that made us not use, exercise these things anymore. You know what I'm saying? So we're appealing to laziness. But, we're at the 2-hour mark. I'm just trying to march down with these other comments real quick. Okay, Nature TV Speakers Corner says the F became the P. Okay, you got to repeat that. FPB. Yeah, I'm not sure what he means by that. Okay, would Patah originally be Fatah and then Pabu, or peace be upon him, like the Arabs say? Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, not originally or anything like that. No. Let's see. Okay, we all come from the animal kingdom. The Egyptian people were called Remesh, and it's the same name for fish. He's asked a question, and that answer is no. The word Remech the word is Remech, and the word Remech is a play on the word Remi. The word Remi is a verb which means to cry or to tear up, and remit would be tears itself, the liquid that comes forth from the eyes. So in the cosmology or cosmogonical story, humanity comes from the tears of Ra. So there's a play on the word to remember it as a mnemonic device to pass it down through the generations that they created through the act of paronymy with the words, or the play on words is what Egyptologists will call punning. They combine the word remi, to cry, with the word for human beings or humanity, remich, because humanity came from the tears of Ra. So it's not dealing with fish. All right, so hopefully that answers that question. Oh wow, it's a whole lot of comments I've been missing. Have y'all been? You know, we already been going 2 hours. Let me see. We get to some of them. Let's see. Logic's going to have no bearing on 18th. Unfortunately, that's true. They could have put a bit of spin on the odd glyph sound and meaning. I study language as well, but I want the team to be ready for gutter tactics. Okay. How did the original people originate in Africa? All right, that's going to take us into a long conversation. You talking about evolution, or even how humans, you know, got here first. Medew Netcher, praise to Mother Nature. No, that's incorrect. The word mother is moot, or even kama.
Netcher.
Medu means words. Medu also means business. Medu also means science. Medu, you know, the word medu has different semantic shadings all within that word. All right. It doesn't mean praise. Now, let me rewind. Now, when I say this, see, this is the thing. One thing we have to understand, that meaning is born out of context. Definitions are found in dictionaries, and there's a difference. There's a difference between definitions and meanings. Okay, both of them, you know, falls up under semantics, but what's listed in dictionaries may not necessarily be how will express what people use the words as. So remember, what a word means is always born out of context. Context is the mother and father of meaning. Okay. So, and I say this because when I say mdw netcher doesn't mean praise to Mother Nature, it doesn't mean that, and I can prove that because I can show you the context in which this phrase mdw netcher is used in actual primary text, primary inscriptions, primary sources, where you will not see it being used to say praise Mother Nature. All right. Wow, I'm trying to catch up. It's a lot. So let's see. Hope I'm not skipping any. Is that what he or she say? Okay. Nope. We have Shesmu in the house. Yeah, I want to say ETM Hotel, you know, shout out to everybody who's watching us now. You know, we're about to close out. And I see everyone in here typing away. And I missed a lot, so I'm just scrolling through. Yeah, Shesmu, your caps lock key must be stuck, because I noticed Shesmu has been typing in all cap locks lately, and if that's the case, that's cool, because I know I remember on our other hangout when we're doing transliterations, it's case sensitive. So if you got your caps lock on, or if there's an issue with the caps lock, it's gonna throw your transliterations off a bit. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you can still hear me. Let's see. Why is Khnum larger than the lady? Why does he have a bull's head? Why is Khnum fashioning the children when we know the Great Mother is the first teacher? But see, check this out. I mean, how do you know that the name is Khnum if the writing system has not been deciphered? See, I don't think people really understand the consequences of the claim. Like, how can you teach for 15 years, or how can you be up under master teachers who've been teaching, you know, for a long time, and all the things that we know? How can you debate people of Abrahamic faith, such as Christians or Hebrew Israelites, and say that the Bible stole X, Y, and Z from Kemet, or stole the story from Kemet, and so on and so forth? How Jesus is really Horus or Osiris, and Mary is really Isis, and the whole nine. But yet also claim that the writing system has not been deciphered. People don't see that as a contradiction. How would you even know that if you're not getting it from the documentation that's been left behind? You see, so it's really, I really, I can't wrap my mind around that. I'm trying to scroll down. I'm catching up. It says, I think that it was under the orders of the queen, who is the throne. Yeah, see, I'm not sure if what I'm saying is being made clear. It doesn't matter what young Pharaoh says, Sarasun Seti says, or whatever, when it comes to what they mean. The question will still remain. Where are they getting that from? If the writing system has not been deciphered, where would they be getting it from? You know what I'm saying? That's, you can't get around that. And, by the way,
that's back to the walking contradiction. Literally.
Yeah. And as a disclaimer, and I want to make sure this is crystal clear for everybody who is under the sound of my voice, because I've seen a clip of a video where young Pharaoh will say something like, he doesn't make videos about other people or mention other people, but other people will always have his name in their mouth, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to make this crystal clear. We don't make videos about young Pharaoh or discuss young Pharaoh in any other sense other than the claims that come forth from him when it comes to stuff that we deal with, which happens to be the ancient Egyptian culture, language, or writing system. So this brother has made some claims about it. Sarasun Seti has made some claims about it. Walter Williams have made claims about it, and different other people have made claims about it, and we will address it, and we will respectfully and responsibly mention the names of the people who make such claims, because we don't do the slick talk. We don't want to talk around people without mentioning their names to do some innuendo or implying things. We just speak directly, but respectfully, not disrespecting the brother, not calling him out of his name whatsoever. We got Sarasun Seti, we got Professor Walter Williams, we have young Pharaoh, and others, who also a small number who feel the same way. So this is not something that we are bashing or slandering anyone. These are issues that we're dealing with, information that we're dealing with. The brother makes claims, we address it. We make claims, other people address those claims. That's perfectly fine. There's no problem with that whatsoever. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there, because I've heard him say that, and to me, it's not valid in a lot of situations. So it says, I think, let's see, I'm just looking for another question, and I don't see any more. Shesmu, I see Shesmu just basically chiming in. Let's see what else. All right, that's it. So anybody else have any other these opinions? What's another good one? One more before we close out. What's another good one? What's a good heavy hitter? What's a heavy hitter? Oh, okay. Let's talk about that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Because y'all, I'm running point, but man, y'all, I'm dribbling the ball for a long time.
Now I was gonna say, no, you're doing great. I was gonna say, another popular claim is the one about the pictorials just being not representing any grammatical symbols or anything. Just everything is what's the word I'm looking for? Just ran away from me.
I just thought about something too. Then somebody say something about Latin and destroyed Medew Netcher, or something about Latin and Medew Netcher today.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But that pictorial, the pictorial claim.
Ideograms. That's what I was trying. That's what ran away from me. They think the whole language is just ideograms, and you gotta be initiated to understand what the meaning of the picture is.
Okay. See, that's another thing. I've heard that too. And this is the question. Anybody that will say that, you ask them, you always ask, see, the burden of proof, and this is something that people really got to get in their minds. The burden of proof is always on the claimant. There are instances where the burden of proof shifts, but it starts with the claimant. Whoever makes the claim, the burden of proof is on them to support the claim. So if they say that all of the glyphs are nothing but pure ideograms or ideographs, provide evidence for that first. See, you know, a lot of us get caught up into having to defend something that is not even, you haven't even got to that level of responding in a defense. You know, let the claimant do what they're supposed to do first. And if they don't do what they're supposed to do, then you're not obligated to do anything. So if somebody comes to me and makes the claim that the pictorial, all of the pictures that we call glyphs, all the glyphs are ideograms, the first question out of my mouth is, how do you know that? Like, what did you see, observe, study, or whatever that caused you to come to that conclusion? Before I can even entertain what you just said, provide me something of how you even came to that conclusion, because I know you didn't come out your mother's womb thinking that. So from your birth until now, you came across something that allows you to come to that conclusion. So disclose that to me first, and then we can move forward with the conversation. Because I'm guarantee you, once we start forcing people to support their claims, the claims will start diminishing, because a lot of people won't be able to do it, or they just won't do it out of pure laziness, or they just won't be able to do it because it doesn't exist. Because I guarantee you, the same literature that somebody learned that word ideogram from, that same book or whatever they got that from is a book that also talked about the other roles of these pictorial signs or glyphs, such as phonographs, such as logographs. I guarantee you it's in the same book. So for somebody to say that they're nothing but ideographs, that's them putting their own spin on it. And because of that, you don't have to entertain it, because they have no proof of it. Because anybody can make up something any day, all day. You know, I can say that all the glyphs are fossilized animals for real. Like when you see a bird, that's a real bird right there. The bones are right in the stone. Like I can make that claim. You know what I'm saying? I could create and spin and say anything out my mouth. Like, yeah, when you see Jehudi, that's a real person right there. If you dig deep enough, you're gonna find the bones right there in the wall. You know, I could say all that stuff, knowing that you're not gonna do it.
Don't get nobody no ideas now.
Yeah, people. No. Hey, I'm joking, but I've heard somebody say that. Not with Jehudi, but I've heard somebody say that the animals that you see on the walls, that some of them are actual animals that were fossilized on the walls, and they said this is why the Egyptians used to put knives or carve knives inside the animals, or would deface the animal so that the animal won't reanimate and come back to life. I've heard people say that out their mouth. So this is the kind of stuff that we're dealing with. You know what I mean? So we have to really, really just keep at it. Just keep the information, information flowing, keep the information coming. And like I said, December 18th will just be one of those events where we just plant the seeds and let people get exposed to information. And it'll be clear. It'll be clear. You know, because it's going to be a mixed group of people. There's no monolithic group of people that all think one way. So there's going to be a mixed crowd. There's going to be people there that's looking for the entertainment. There's going to be people there that don't care about the facts. They just want to hear, the wow moments, and all that stuff, the aha moments. But then there's people going to be with pen and pad ready to learn, so we're going to have it all. Can't please everybody. And remember, it's all about quality over quantity anyway. So I don't know. We've been on for 2 hours, and there's a lot more that we could talk about. We could probably do this again, and address some more of these things. But like us, we have the December 18th event coming up. So the stuff that we're talking about, some of it will come up there, some of it's not, and doesn't have anything to do with the event per se. But yeah, these are things people need to be aware of prior to the event. Yep. So anybody else have anything? I know we didn't have roll call. The brother Damo came in. So I'll say ETM Hotep.
Yeah, Hotep family, Hotep everybody.
But yeah, huh? Well, like I said, we can go on and on. Because there's a lot. I mean, we see a lot of statements being made on Facebook and stuff. Like, for example, I'll just give you a last example. Today, I was asked about the common script. What was the common script? Because the question was asked, where are these people getting information from if the writing system has not been deciphered? And, one of the proposed answers was, from the most common script or common writing system. And when people say common, they're talking about what's called the Demotic script. But the Demotic script didn't come about until the 600s BC. So what about all of the history prior to that? How do we even mention a name of Imhotep? How do we mention names like Ramesses II, Ramesses I, Seti the First, Amenhotep, Amenemhet, Hatshepsut, and all the things that surrounded them, the voyage to Punt, all these different stories that are found in the tomb, the Book of Gates, the Book of the Heavenly Cow, the Book of the Earth, the Book of what is in the Amduat, all of these different texts, the pyramid texts, the coffin texts, the various different coffin texts, the Runu Pered Heru, or so-called Book of the Dead. All of this is prior to 600 BC. So if that were true, that the information is coming from the common script that they call Demotic, then that would knock that out the box. You see what I'm saying? So it's just real. It's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of confusion out there, and it's just comes from people just not taking the time to actually study. But yet they want to say something. It's fine if people don't want to study, because everybody, this may not be interesting for everybody. So that's fine. Like I don't study biogenetics. I don't focus on that. But you will never see me standing before a crowd of people pretending like I know. If somebody was speaking on it, I can follow along, based on what I do know, but that's not a focus. I will not stand before people and act as an authoritative figure to speak intelligently on that subject. To the point where I'm teaching people or trying to teach people about that. No, not at all. You know what I'm saying? But new people who want to learn this language, the writing system and Ronnie Kemet and Sesh Medew Netcher, yes, I will accept that title, Seba. I don't even like titles. It took me a long time to even get used to being called Seba. I'm like, man, I don't, that didn't feel right. That didn't fit right on me. But that's what I do. I can teach that, and anybody, to anybody, so that's something that I will do. Period. So that's the difference. So we have to understand our limitations and our pros and cons and be honest with ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Whatever I'm weak on, I don't pretend to know, and I definitely won't get in front of a camera or pretend to lecture people about something that I am not well versed or well studied in. No way. So I don't think we should. As a matter of fact, even in the school system, you can't. I mean, imagine you sending your child off to school, and one of the classes is math, and the teacher that's teaching it has no clue about math. You'll be mad. You start questioning the principal or the staff of the school, the board of education. Be like, well, wait a minute, what's your hiring criteria? Are you vetting your teachers? Like, what was on their resume? This teacher don't know anything about math, but yet you have them in a class to teach math. So likewise, people who don't study the language should not be projecting themselves as teachers, even if they don't call themselves teacher, quote unquote, label themselves as a teacher. still, you can't position yourself to speak about something in a certain capacity without having to do the work and everything. I'm seeing videos like the recent video. Someone said that, matter of fact, it was Minister Inky's video where he said that Medew Netcher is a magical language. Like, okay, where did you get that from? Like, provide information to where you get that from. And that the magic was transferred over to Latin, or Latin stole the magic of Medew Netcher. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing. So, we just got to be careful with things. So remember, last thing, a writing system is a graphic representation of verbal communication. It's just that simple. Writing was invented because a community of people outgrew the ability to memorize, pass down, and store data. Because for a long time, people were collecting data, passing the information down from generations, and it was containable in oral transmissions. Then at a certain point in history, it became outgrown to provide the climate that caused it to be a problem, and the solution to the problem was to invent a writing system to where you can store data, larger amounts of data that did not require the memorization, et cetera, et cetera. It was an aid to the storage and passing on of information. And this is something we take for granted today because we're all born into a world where writing is everywhere. But just imagine for a moment, take time and really think about living in a world where there's no such thing as writing. Like right now, even in us speaking English, we take for granted the fact that we're speaking a language where we don't know the meanings of all the words. And we've been speaking it all our life. Anybody who's been born speaking English as a mother tongue has been speaking the language for all their life, but yet still don't know all the meanings of all the words in the language. Why? Because we know that we can open up a book called a dictionary and look up a word that we're just unfamiliar with. But just imagine before writing, people had to memorize the entire vocabulary of their entire language to be able to pass it on. Otherwise, words will come into existence and go out of existence, in existence and go out of existence. So if words can do that, whole stories could do that. Whole scientific observations can do that. And this is something that Africans did not want to happen and made sure didn't happen. Thus, eventually, the birth of writing systems. So anyway, I'm gonna end with that. Anybody else got something to say? Yes, no, maybe so. All right, so if not, Sonnet, Emiketa Cool. Matter of fact, well, nah, I was gonna put you on the spot, but yeah, Emiketa Cool, you can close us out and give a final comments.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for not putting me on the spot. But yeah, dua for the show, and dua for those who've been sitting and listening, and obviously those who are going to be listening later on in the archives and whatnot. Remember to share the videos that we have on our archives and whatnot. But just to finish, I mean, we do talk about the language a lot, but that's because we actually sit and we live, breathe, eat the language. This is what we do. Seshew Medew Netcher. So I mean, pretty much the only thing I would like to say or end the show with is just especially for, I don't know, first of all for the ladies that sit and listen to these people talking about the language hasn't been deciphered. One of the things that you hear a lot is like they're resonating with these people. The only thing I would like to say is like, stop resonating with these people and start resonating with some books. Get your books, fix your head straight, read some books, get the facts and all of that. You have to stop all this worshiping of people and just get the facts straight. There is no excuse for any person who's 18 and over trying to resonate with somebody regarding facts, especially with this language. For the fellas, I mean, if you're resonating with these people, I don't have any, I don't even know what to say at this point. But the point is, there is no excuse. If you're still listening to these people and you haven't done your research for yourself, you have a problem, But at the end of the day, what we do, and we have demonstrated, we demonstrate this all the time. You can read the language, we can read it, we can transliterate it and translate it. We show you the methods that we do. You've seen us take our time. You've seen us also grow, and we're still growing. So there is no excuse for listening to people who have not, somebody talk about XYZ hasn't been, cannot be done, and they themselves cannot actually do XYZ, and there's some people actually doing XYZ. There is no excuse. So get the books, study, start forming your own opinions, doing your own analysis and all of that. But, I'm not going to talk much. Just say that, we appreciate those who watch, and we appreciate those who actually try to seek the information about the language. If you watch this and some people who need that, hey, share the videos. If you haven't joined our group page, we are in Facebook, Seshew mdw-ntr Netcher. You can find us there. If you're interested in learning the language, you can check out the web page, which is on mdw-ntr.com, mdw-ntr.com. There's memberships. There's there's different kinds of membership. There's free membership. Join. Subscribe, and there's a lot of information in there regarding the language. This is one of the things that you don't have to invest with money per se in the beginning just to get to learn. On our group page, there's a lot of information that you can find. You can just test it out and see. But do that if you haven't done that. And I would just like to say dua for tuning in, and we'll see you again on Wednesday, on Friday, on Freestyle Fridays. So I will end by saying get an affair, which is good night, and bake an affair to those who are on morning time, and Shema Meltep going.